Welcome to the world of Doctor Who, the Time Lord that explores the galaxy while on his time-traveling adventures. Welcome to the world of the longest-running science fiction series in history, with your co-hosts Susan Backstrom, David Grunt, Matthew Rose, Tom Diamond, and Craig Johnson. They explore the classic series from its humble beginnings in 1963 and tracking through time to every episode up to the current day. This is the Doctor Who retrospective, where a legend will never die. Merry Christmas from the Literary License Podcast. In this Doctor Who week, we'll be covering The Edge of Destruction from 1964. And before we get started, let's find out who's with us. We got Craig Johnson with us. Hello, Craig.
Hello, everyone.
We got Matthew Rose with us. Hello, Matthew.
Yes, it is freezing as Mondas, but that's about two series later on down the line.
And let's find out before we get started. Let's find out what each of us has been up to, starting with you, Craig. What have you been up to since last time we spoke to you?
Well, I've been getting to grips with my new job at work, so I'm trying to get my head around that. I'm working from home, looking after my mom because she had surgery, and I've been binge watched Wednesday. Finally got through all 8 episodes. I thought it was a fantastic series, really enjoyable. And yeah, love a bit of Tim Burton and the Addams Family.
I sat there and say it's an excellent series, and Jenny Ortega is fantastic as Wednesday. Yeah, and she has quite the year, actually. I mean, she was in X, which has done really well as far as horror movies are concerned. It's a film that has made like over $50 million for a horror film, which is excellent. And then she also did Scream, the new Scream film as well. So she's had a good year, our Jenny Ortega. So, and what about yourself, Matthew? What have you been up to?
Oh, excuse me 1 second. I'm so sorry. I got a bit of a cough there and a bit because it's freezing here. I had completed on Friday my 5-week course in admin, so everything's done. I've gotten to wait for the final certificate. I did a distance learning for that. So I've retrained my skills. I've retrained my skills on how to deal with people over the phone, how to deal with people in office. So basically, I've retrained a lot of what I have known, but some of it I've never done before. So it's been a great experience. And it was just so weird on Friday. Nobody wanted to say goodbye.
Well, that's good. That means they liked you.
Oh, yes, because I have a potential interview tomorrow to go back there. So it's 9:30 in the morning. I've got a meeting. That's the thing that I've got to slug out for.
Oh, you'll do fantastically well. You'll
you.
do well.
Oh, thank
and
you.
Congratulations on finishing your
good
course.
luck with that, Matt.
Yes, thank you so much. I'll send you both the PayPal afterwards.
Well, myself, I won second place in a short story competition now, and it's being that's going to be published in May, so that was quite good. And I just signed with a new literary agency in New York City. My new literary agency is named Cindy Springsteen, and I just been commissioned to write a book, so I'm working on that and getting things ready for Christmas and trying to keep warm because it's bloody cold here in London. So,
I forgot to mention the snow, Keith.
Yes, we got snow. We might have a white Christmas. God bless you, Bing Crosby.
God bless us, everyone. And I watched the Muppet Christmas Carol, Keith, at the Prince Charles Cinema. It was like the 30th anniversary of it. And it was a version. I went there with my sister.
I watched the extended version of that on Disney Plus the other day because I had a deleted scene from it.
Yeah, it was brilliant.
I used to know the girl who sings the solo in it. God, I can't remember her name now. I mean, I know her like it was 20 years ago that we used to hang around. But she she has her solo song in that. And the reason why I knew her is because she played Eponine, and my ex used to direct Les Mis, so I met her through him. And of course, what happens when you get divorced from your ex? It's like you can have your friends back. So, but she was really good. I mean, she had a lovely singing voice, and I think that's one of the scenes that was cut, wasn't it? Was
When the Love Is Gone.
Yeah, When Love Is Gone.
Yeah, that's put in the extra version on Disney Plus. You can watch the song on its own or the full version of it put back in.
And I quite like that song. So I whenever I watch it, I try to watch the extended version because I think her song is quite a nice song, actually.
Yeah, it was the first time I've seen it because I've seen the original, and then I've seen now, which is that technically is the original, which is quite nice for comparison.
I quite like the Christmas Carol I always watch every year is the one with Kelsey Grammer from Frasier. It's a musical, and it has like Ruthie Henschel in it, and the guy from Rent, and Ally McBeal, and Jane Krakowski from, well, she was in Ally McBeal, and then she also was in that Tina Fey comedy. And I quite like that because the music's written by Alan Menken, who did Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Lion King, and wrote the music for all those. And Hercules, and so I like that one because I like the music in it, and it's quite fun sort of thing. And it's got Geraldine Page in it, and so I kind of watched that. And you can find that on Amazon Prime now, so that always pops up. So and it's the musical that they do at the Radio City Music Hall on Broadway every year. So they recast it, and every year this is plays during their Christmas season. And you normally have the Rockettes coming out at some point.
Yes, I met some of them when I was in New York. They had like a photo opportunity to meet like one of the dancers that was one of the Rockettes.
Oh, cool. With their long legs.
Yes,
long legs.
I think in the musical there was like a picture of like a painting of an elephant that was trying to go up the stairs. I don't know how it got into the building, but somehow it got in many years ago.
Oh my God, yeah.
Apparently they had all this loud thudding. Nobody knew what it was. They thought it was an earthquake, and it was a baby elephant coming up the stairs.
How does a baby elephant get into the Music City, the Radio City Music Hall in New York City? That's a mystery within itself. So.
yeah, and they literally got the picture of it in there, so you get to see the elephant in black and white coming up the stairs.
Weird. What we're going to do is we're going to cut to the synopsis of Edge of Destruction for Doctor Who and be right back. This is the synopsis for Doctor Who, The Edge of Destruction, aired on the dates the 8th of February and the 15th of February 1964. The first Doctor, while attempting to correct the TARDIS's faulty navigation circuits, causes a small explosion. The Doctor, Barbara Wright, Ian Charleston, and Susan Foreman are all temporarily rendered unconscious. When they wake, Ian and Susan appear to have a slight case of amnesia, and everyone begins to act strangely. The travelers are becoming suspicious of each other's motives, and the Doctor accuses Ian and Barbara of sabotage, feeling that they have been taken over by some alien force, or that they have intentionally sabotaged the TARDIS to force the Doctor to return them to 1963. He drugs Barbara and Ian, knowing that Ian is also suspicious and is not taking the drink given to him. The Doctor attempts to explore the problem without interference. Gradually, it becomes clear that the strange events are an attempt by the TARDIS itself to warn the crew that something is wrong. Barbara's clue gathering forces the Doctor to trace the problems to a broken spring in the fast return switch. The malfunction is causing the TARDIS to head back to the beginning of time. The strange events were just attempts by the TARDIS to warn the passengers before the ship is destroyed. Fixing the switch brings them back to normal. Although the day is saved, Barbara is still affected by the Doctor's harsh words earlier. The Doctor apologizes and admits that he was wrong about Barbara and Ian. The story closes with the TARDIS materializing on a snowy landscape, where Susan spots a giant footprint in the snow. And that's the synopsis for Doctor Who, The Edge of Destruction, airing on the 8th to the 15th of February 1964. Now, back to the show. Hello, welcome back to the show's podcast. We're discussing Doctor Who, The Edge of Destruction from 1964. And starting with you, Matt, what are your thoughts about these episodes?
Oh, The Edge of Destruction. Now, if Doctor Who, I know they had stage plays many years down the line, but I would say this was the first stepping stone into Doctor Who doing a stage production. There was no true villain. It was a great ensemble cast. They were all given something really strongly to do. Now, Susan, Carol Ann Ford, for people that say Susan could be a bit of a wet blanket because, she lived a very sheltered life with her grandfather and all that. I viewed it was one of her better stories because Susan had the scissors. She was literally screeching. It looked something out of a horror movie. It was really something that was quite psychological for a children's show back then. The mastermind behind Edge of Destruction, I don't know what on earth he was thinking. You literally followed cave people. You followed the iconic Daleks. And then suddenly you end it on this sort of mini trilogy where the crew have firmly tightened their bond after nearly killing each other, which is so funny to me. It's like they all have, it's like you'd think it's lunatics inside an asylum when you watch them. I have to say though, I think it was I think each person played their part extremely well. Barbara, it seems she had a lot more to do as well as Ian. It seemed they were coming out of their shell of being the school teachers. They were all trying to keep their sanity together in this claustrophobic environment. For the length it is, I'm just surprised it got away with it because it's very short, it's very fast paced. It's essentially something you can see with the newer series of Doctor Who, the formatting now is designed to be quick for the audience, and that was very quick for a 60s audience. For me, also, I think Hartnell, when he's going all insane, he suddenly looks like Doc Brown one minute because of all the sweat and the heat in there. His hair is flying everywhere. It's absolutely, I'd say it's an overlooked gem for Doctor Who because people always go on about what's your favourite thing from Doctor Who. And I'd say I'd highly recommend The Edge of Destruction if you literally don't want a really long piece of a story that's dragging out too long. It's fast, it's quick, it gets to the point. The enemy in the TARDIS is literally taunting them, and it's not an enemy you can see, which is fantastic. It makes them all back crazy. And I think if I'd say to a person who's starting Doctor Who, as much as this might be controversial for people, but I would say, unless you watch the pilot, like the opening of episode 1, An Earthly Child, I'd say start with the Daleks, go to Edge, because I think that was more the strongest start for Doctor Who, more than how it actually started.
And what about yourself, Craig? What are your thoughts?
The Edge of Destruction, it reminded me of when you get actors doing a monologue or something together in a rehearsal type of thing, and they show mixtures of emotions, and the Doctor was trying to program the TARDIS and try and control the TARDIS, which it was good because that's the first time you can see him trying to control the TARDIS, but then you realize the TARDIS has a mind of its own because it was going to basically take them to the beginning of creation until there was a big explosion on board. But what Matt said as well, it was quite chilling, the scene with the scissors, when Susan had the scissors and she started to lunge, and I thought, wow, that is pretty heavy going for a 1960s children's TV program, because that looks quite violent. But when she lunged towards Ian, and then Ian even he looked possessed almost, and he said something. That's when it made me think that they, these really good high caliber actors are just showing their skills. And it's very minimal. It's a very minimalist episode because you're basically with the main cast, Ian, Barbara, Susan, the Doctor, all in the TARDIS environment. There's, the door's open, but you don't see outside, or, it was very eerie. And I was thinking, was it an entity that had taken over them? But then I realized it wasn't. It was this is what confused me. It was the fast return switch on the TARDIS had caused that to happen.
Yeah, it's a broken spring in the fast return switch.
Yeah. But I feel like it was a filler because it was only 2 episodes, and it felt like they could have just done that to rehearse and then it could have been added into another of the episodes. It was just a bit strange that there was a 2 episode there, because it leads on to the Marco Polo, which was like 7 episodes, and the one before it, the Daleks, was like, I think that was 7 episodes as well, or 6 or 7. So but yeah, it was I thought it was a bit callous of Ian and Barbara where after the explosion, when the Doctor's clearly injured, lying on the floor, Ebenezer who, they're literally just standing over him as if to say, the old fucker's on the floor, but we're not going to bother to do anything about it. We're just going to carry on as normal and just worry about ourselves. That was like, yeah. So it'd be interesting to see how that relationship develops and see if they then defend him, and are they going to look out for each other, and are they going to realize that Doctor Who is actually a really good person, or are they just going to try and continue to have them injured and like a serves you right sort of scenario, or a taste of your own medicine Doctor? That's what it feels like at the moment from what I could gather.
See, what I took away from it is, I think it's one of those 2 episodes is that basically they spent a lot of money. This is probably an expensive show for the BBC at its time. When you look at the sets and the characters and the costume designs and so on and so forth. And I think that they like, okay, well, we need something that's going to cut costs a little bit. And so therefore we're going to set everything in one place, sort of thing. And you do see this in other TV shows. Other TV shows kind of do this where, it's like, they haven't really gone too far beyond like the 4 walls sort of thing, because it keeps everything, it's a way to ensure that you cut costs. You don't need extras. You can carry on with it. But I always find with these kind of episodes that they end up always being the strongest, because they're not depending on the special effects or the set designs and all the other external characters. And so you're able to flesh out your characters a lot more. And I thought they did that very well here. I mean, you got to see William Russell running around in his boxers and a bathrobe. I guess that's a good thing, sort of thing. But and Susan got her hair messed up, so that was quite good. But and I don't know what, but Susan's shoes are freaking ugly. So, if I have the drawback on it, her shoes weren't the greatest. So I was just like, oh, they're really ugly shoes. They're like,
it's interesting.
Like a little heel.
Richard Martin directed episode 1, and then Frank Cox directed episode 2. So it was interesting that you had 2 directors on the different episodes and not just one director taking the lead, sort of thing.
Yeah, and it's quite good because I'm trying to wonder if I didn't actually feel a difference in directors either. So that was quite good, because sometimes you kind of get that, what this part's done by this one, this part's done for something, and then you get like this change in tone. But they kept that quite good.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember if Richard was on Marco Polo, so that's probably why he couldn't do the full thing with Edge.
I mean, it's a good skew episode as well. So where you go from, the Daleks, and now you're skewing into the next story. So that was quite interesting as well. The only nitpicking I will do is that sometimes when they show the controls the TARDIS. It'd be nice if they weren't written in magic marker. Because it's like, oh, that's right. Who wrote that in magic marker? Because I'd be like, you know what I mean? So, but I mean, that's a really stupid thing to say and a really stupid thing to pick on it. But after I was looking at it, I was like, oh, that's a magic marker. That's the first thing that hit my head. It's like, why is that? Who wrote that in magic marker?
Yeah.
Sort of thing. You know, and I guess if it was done today, it'd probably be like a post-it note. Start button.
Yes.
Door control. Water. Okay. So, but I mean, I thought it was quite funny that, the first Doctor's running around with a quiche pie plate on his head, because it looks like, the quiche pie plates, and how they have, they're kind of like have those diagonal cuts all the way around, and then you push up the bottom of it, because that way you have the quiche on the silver plate, and then you just have the rim around, and he's wearing the rim on his head, so that was interesting.
Yeah.
So, and I thought, oh, okay, that's an interesting look. I don't know how that's going to help your head, but hey, go for it. It's like, what's he doing with a quiche pie plate on his head for? So, but in all seriousness, I mean, it's good to see Barbara get some balls. I mean, she really is like, this is the first time she called the Doctor on his shit. Let's be honest. It's like, really, you kidnap us. We gotten you out of scrapes. You lied to us about, to get us down in the city. You almost get us killed again. And then you think it's us going after you. Really? And I like that scene. That was a really good scene. She's like, cut the shit, Doctor. I've had enough of your crap. It's like, don't pin this on us because you're an idiot.
Yeah, I think this is the time when Barbara was coming more out of her shell, because obviously Ian is still trying to be peacemaker, and then there's Barbara wanting to get more in the action.
Yeah. And to be honest, it's like, I think this is the first time that we see Barbara being true about everything. It's like, not just, calling someone out is a strong thing to do, because the only person who's called the Doctor out really has been his granddaughter, Susan. Really, she's called him out a couple times, but it's quite good. It's like, so therefore it's like, Barbara is no longer the prisoner. She's no longer the person who's been kidnapped. She's like, okay, I'm standing on my own now. I don't need this crap, sort of thing. And I like that. And it showed in real good like.
Yeah, and with it being a bridge story, as you say, this is the first time when they've had 5 minutes since the whole kidnapping stuff in the very first episode to really talk to the Doctor about all the stuff that's been happening since they left the junkyard.
I mean, the only flaw I can see is when it's the explanation sequences, or they're trying to explain what's really going on, and I kind of had to watch that a bit twice to like really know what they were saying, because I kind of got a little bit lost there. And but saying that, I mean, it makes sense, but when they're going into it, you're like, huh? Sort of thing. So it took me a second little viewing there for that 5 minutes where it's like, okay, now I got it. It's like, 'cause I kind of got a little bit lost. So I had like that big question mark over my head going, huh? But it does make sense when I did listen to it. It's like, oh, okay, I should. And I think probably what I was doing, because normally when I watch some stuff, how sometimes your mind kind of shuts off a little bit. I think my mind shut off just a little bit. It's like, oh, but I mean, apparently this is also, they took their inspiration from haunted houses and ghost stories and stuff like that and added it to TARDIS. And I thought they did that quite well as well. Like Phantom, like Ghost in the Shell, or the Japanese would take on about ghost and machinery, and you've seen a lot of Japanese horror, so that's quite interesting to see something like this done before all that became in vogue back in the 80s until now. So I thought that was quite ahead of its time, really. Anything more to add about Edge of Destruction? Because there's so many episodes in this story arc.
Are you looking for a graphic design that will take you to the next level? Or something that shows confidence within a growing market to help you stand out amongst the crowd? Amazing Designs gives consistent and on-brand designs whether you are looking for something conservative or you want to let your imagination soar. They bring professionalism to a high standard, and they're able to visualize your ideas and give them that extra edge. Working one-on-one with their designers will give you a design that will live up to your expectations and more. Affordable, expert designs for all occasions, whether it's logos, brochures, or whatever you can dream of. Amazing Designs is your to-go place for creativity and hands-on expertise. Try Amazing Designs today. Contact them via email at amazingdesigns505@gmail.com. That's amazingdesigns505@gmail.com, or reach out by phone at country code 1-805-203-0427. We love them so much here at the Literary License Podcast that we use them ourselves.
But I'd rather be different than be the same.
Okay, well, I think what we'll do is, I think we should just go, who is your favorite character in this story? Which one really made your heart sing? And starting with you, Craig.
Probably Susan. I liked, she was, when she got possessed, she played it really well. It was very believable, and it's good to see a different side of her. And yeah, seeing her with a knife was quite shocking. And yeah, she, not the normal Miss Goody Two Shoes, that we're used to seeing.
There's some long scissors that she had.
Yeah,
some long scissors. Is there anyone that you would consider the least capable in this story?
Maybe the Doctor, but I think the Doctor spent most of the episode on the floor. And it would have been nicer if there'd been like a better explanation of what had actually happened, because I was left a bit miffed, because I thought, is it an entity? Is it no? And then I realised, it's just the TARDIS from a switch. It's like one of them things where they wake up and say, it was all but a dream.
Yeah, a bit like Dallas all over again. And I agree with that. What about yourself, Matthew? Who do you think was the strongest character, and who do you think was the least strongest character in this?
Well, as you know, when we keep doing like these reviews, I keep leaning more towards Susan the most, because series 1 definitely feels the strongest for Carol Ann Ford. But at the same time, when you come into the next series, you can ultimately see why Carol Ann Ford decided it was time to go. This was playing to her strengths this very first year. It was like they all knew what to do. The crew got on very well. Susan with the scissors, the knife. It's like you see this frightened child not knowing what to do. And yeah, I would agree with the sentiment about the Doctor. It is Doctor Who, but you could definitely tell that how early days it was. They didn't know what to do with him, because they were changing the format, as you can tell, on a weekly basis. So he was knocked out unconscious like someone who was in the pub. It was just him on the floor. It's like they didn't really bother what to do with him. It was like the companions seemed like they were the stars of the show this week, and the Doctor was in the background again.
I agree with that. My favorite character has to be Barbara. See Barbara finally come into her own and not just be a victim. I quite like that. I think Susan was excellent as well, but Barbara, for me, when she told the Doctor off, I thought I was like kind of rooting for her, like, good for you, babe, get on with it, babe, sort of thing. So I quite liked her a lot. The Doctor, there's a slight disconnect, because in the Daleks, it's kind of like he was softening. And in this episode, he hardened again. It's like, and I'm thinking to myself, what in the hell happened between you being knocked out and then the previous storyline? Because he was softening, and now he's hard and bitter and brittle again. And I'm like,
I always wondered on that note if this was supposed to be straight after the caveman story, but they had to swap it for the Daleks.
And that is possible, but then again, if they were swapping it, I mean, this ends with them in the snow, which is the next storyline. So
like in the original scripting for it before it actually was filmed.
It's possible, sort of thing. But yeah, or maybe this had a different writer than the ones previously, and maybe they just got okay. Well, the Doctor's going to be like this, and then because they write these, they write these stuff ahead of time anyway. They don't write, this is not like American television, when it comes to BBC or like EastEnders, but basically like in American television, what happens? You have a staff of writers, and as the show, as the show's going on, they got these people writing, and then basically like, okay, well, this is working, so we'll move it this way, and that's an ongoing process. Where it comes with the BBC, everything's kind of written, like the whole season is written in advance before they even start filming it. So maybe, the softening of the Doctor and stuff like that, the guy who wrote this episode might have not got the notes that this is what they're doing as well. Okay, this is the story arc, this is what we're doing. So there is that possibility, maybe. Or maybe they're looking at the Doctor in a simple case is that maybe he's instead of the ghost or the TARDIS being the one that's striking out, that maybe it's the Doctor striking out and trying to give it that, the show that, trying to force your direction in this way when it's actually this way, sort of thing. So maybe it has something to do with that. So, well, is there anything more to add about these episodes? This was a nice short, sweet. Just one of our shortest episodes ever in the Literary License podcast. Considering last week's was 3.5 hours. Yay. The end of the Literary License podcast. Next month, we'll be covering episodes that have been lost or deleted from Marco Polo, which were episodes covered from 22nd of February to the 4th of April, 1964. Next week, we'll be doing our Make Remakes, which will be West Side Story, the 1961 original, and the Steven Spielberg 2021 remake. And our M&M, of course, will be doing everything with the holiday Christmas cheer, with Eating Raoul about killing off swingers and turning them into dog food, and the musical by Trey Parker and Matt Stone from the people who did South Park called Cannibal the Musical, which is fine for a nice holiday festive treat. And of course, Doctor Who will be coming back, and will be not Doctor Who, sorry, will be Dark Shadows will be coming back. Tom is back with us. He's had he's recovered from his stroke, so we'll be going back to Dark Shadows, and we'll be finishing off that series. And of course, in January for 2023, our Books of Screens will be the controversial We Need to Talk About Kevin and the film starring Tilda Swinton. And of course, Batman will be back with Batman, and we'll be covering 4 episodes as we move forward with the episodes. Drum roll, please. Feet of Clay, part 1 and part 2, which will be looking at Clay. And we will be also looking at the episodes Vendetta and Fear of Victory. And that'll be what we'll be doing with with Batman. So it's good night for myself before I screw this up any further. Good night, Craig.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, Matthew.
Good night and stay warm. It's freezing cold.
And a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year and Happy Holidays to all listeners. Have a Merry Christmas, everyone.
I'm a man of reason, and they say 'tis the season to be jolly, but it's folly when you volley for position. Never in existence has there been such a resistance to ideas meant to free us. If you could see us, then you'd listen. Toiling through the ages, making toys on garnished wages. There's no union, we're only through when we outdo the competition. I make toys, but I've got aspirations. Make some noise, use your imagination. Girls and boys, before you wish list for who's been naughty or nice, but consider the price to an elf.
A full indentured servitude can reflect on one's attitude, but that silly red hat just makes the fat man look outrageous.
Absurd though it may seem, you know I've heard there's even been illegal doping. And though we're coping, I just hope it's not contagious.
You try to start a movement and you think you see improvement, but when thrown into the moment, we just don't seem so courageous. I make toys, but I've got aspirations. Make some noise, use your imagination. Girls and boys, before you wish for what you wish for, there's a list for who's been naughty or nice, but consider the price to an elf.
You look at yourself, you're an elf, and the shelf is just filled with disappointing memories. Trends come and go, and your friends wanna know why you aren't just happy making crappy little gizmos. Every kid knows they'll just throw this stuff away.
We used to repetition, so we drew up a petition. We the undersigned feel undermined. Let's redefine employment.
We know that we've got leverage, so we'll hand the fat man a beverage. He'll sit back while we attack the utter lack of our enjoyment. It may be tough to swallow, but our threats are far from hollow. He may thunder, but if he blunders, he may wonder where the toys went. I make toys, but I've got aspirations. Make some noise, use your imagination. Girls and boys, before you wish for what you wish for, there's a list for who's been naughty or nice, but consider the price.
Naughty or nice, but consider the price.
Naughty or nice, but consider the price to an elf.